Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hundreds of students are out sick at a local high school, a sign that flu season is here in full force. Good evening, I'm Maya Trabulsi. San Diego County health officials had already predicted a much worse flu season than last year. And today the county is investigating an outbreak at Patrick Henry High School in Del Cerro. And that's where KPBS education reporter MG Perez joins us now live with the latest. MG?
Maya, there are still students on campus this evening. They're wrapping up extracurricular activities, but not many, and that has been the case over the past couple of days. What we know is that the San Diego Health Department is investigating a potential outbreak of students who have been complaining of sore throats, cough, wheezing, and body aches. What we know is that most of them have tested negative for COVID. We also know that over the past weekend, the Patrick Henry homecoming game and dance was held, which could factor into this investigation. Late this afternoon, we talked to Dr. Howard Terrace, San Diego Unified District Doctor.
It's not COVID. Why have so many individuals at one party and one game been able to get this?
And why is that?
Well, I think that is one of the reasons that the county is interested in is investigating. They may start taking samples from, 10, 15 individuals who seem to have gotten it from this source and look to see whether it is RSV or whether it's flu.
And if it is flu, there are plenty of cases already here in the county. Since July 3rd, we know that there have been 1,082 cases reported. And in that same period last year, there were only 200 cases. Maya, that is an increase of more than 400%. So certainly something to worry about. And that's why it is important for health officials to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, that is quite an increase. And MG, it can be hard to look after sick kids, but what can parents and students do to prevent getting so sick?
Well, the suggestions are very familiar to us all. Wash your hands. If you do feel symptomatic, stay home. And the biggest suggestion is when in a crowd of people, wear a mask. All of us are familiar with that, Maya.
Great advice. Thanks so much, MG. Health officials continue to push for Americans to get updated COVID vaccines, and soon that will extend to younger kids. Today, the FDA gave emergency use authorization to the updated Pfizer boosters for kids as young as 5. The CDC still has to sign off on shots for that age group. The new boosters became available for people 12 and older last month. They target the original coronavirus strain and the Omicron BA4 and 5 subvariants. Dr. Eric Topol of Scripps Research says so far, vaccination rates among children have been disappointing.
So getting a booster in the small proportion, the minority of kids, it would help. But we just have to do better vaccines across the board, from 6 months where vaccines are approved all the way through to the oldest Americans.
And according to the White House COVID-19 response coordinator, up to 15 million people in the U.S. have received the updated booster since September 1st. There are more than 8,000 unhoused people in San Diego County. The local agency dealing with the crisis has unveiled a new plan with an ambitious goal to end homelessness for veterans, families, and seniors over the next 5 years. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado breaks it down for us.
What if we could end homelessness for most populations within 5 years and the overall homeless population in half? The county's Regional Task Force on Homelessness says its newest plan, released Wednesday, can do just that. They're calling it the Plan of Plans, saying it combines the best of federal, state, and local practices and strategies to end homelessness once and for all in the San Diego region, and do it in 5 years.
And doing to the scale and scope that is needed to really address these issues. Family homelessness, senior homelessness, our unsheltered population, our transition-age youth population.
That's Tamara Kohler, the CEO of the Regional Task Force on Homelessness. She says finding homes for the people experiencing homelessness now won't end the problem forever. So she says it's critical to create a system where people don't fall through the cracks or linger there for months or years.
In ending homelessness, what we're really saying is it isn't that anyone's never going to experience homelessness, but we need a system that when someone is experiencing homelessness, lost that apartment, reaching out for assistance, that we have a rapid response to be able to get them housed quickly, no more than 30 days.
On average, there are about 4,000 shelter beds in the county, but there's a need for about 900 to 1,200 more beds. And that doesn't count things like affordable housing and rapid housing. The task force gives each region a number of housing units and beds they should be striving for.
Those jurisdictions can come together collectively. We want to help them fundraise for it. We want to help bring resources to their community and really help them organize their efforts and support whatever is needed to address homelessness in each region.
But in the past, not all have agreed with the task force strategies. Officials in El Cajon say their city is essentially being used as a dumping ground for the homeless through a hotel voucher program. But Kohler says they offer support and resources to all jurisdictions, but everyone has to come together to help the most vulnerable.
I understand it's challenging, but it also is about people. At the end of all of this, we have far too many San Diegans who can't afford housing or have been through a very traumatic experience of loss of job or other things that really need us to set aside a certain amount of judgment and come together in solutions. And that's what this plan gives us.
Kohler says they will also focus on prevention strategies to stem the flow of the next wave of homelessness. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The U.S. Navy has now started an independent investigation of the SEAL's rigorous selection course after the death of a sailor. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says 3 officers are being reprimanded for the incident.
The Navy's Special Warfare Command has reprimanded 3 officers in connection with the February death of a SEAL candidate at the Naval Special Warfare Training Center in Coronado. In a new report, the Navy says Kyle Mullen collapsed and died of acute pneumonia just hours after completing the grueling Hell Week test. In a statement sent to KPBS, a Naval Special Warfare official said administrative actions have been taken regarding the former commanding officer of Basic Training Command, the commander of Naval Special Warfare Center, and senior medical staff under their command. Those actions will be reviewed during the Naval Education and Training Command-led investigation. Commanders did not directly blame the officers for the death of Mullen, and no one's been fired. But a Navy investigation into his death has caused a number of changes in how sailors are monitored during the exhausting test and has prompted the command to expand testing for performance-enhancing drugs. And results from the investigation concluded that the death of Mullen was in the line of duty, not due to his own misconduct. Mullen's death has shined a light on the brutal Hell Week that pushes SEAL candidates to their limits. The test involves basic underwater demolition, survival, and other combat tactics, and sailors just get a pair of 2-hour sleep periods during the event. It tests physical, mental, and psychological strength, along with leadership skills, and it's so grueling that at least 50 to 60% don't finish. Rear Admiral Keith David said Kyle's death will not be in vain, and they have a moral obligation to learn everything they can from his death so that they can ensure safety for all future candidates. The 320-page report includes a number of interviews with Mullen's classmates, who described his deteriorating health in his last 2 days of the test. The report says candidates are often wary of going to a hospital or seeking outside medical help because it could get them disqualified from the class. The Navy is also looking into that reluctance by some candidates. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
After a barrage of complaints, Customs and Border Protection paused plans to replace a gate at Friendship Park with a 30-foot border wall. Now, as KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis tells us, the agency is deciding whether to move forward with the project.
So our fear is that this proposal, the construction of 30-foot walls, would effectively render Friendship Park closed to the public.
That's John Fanistil with Friends of Friendship Park. On Wednesday morning, he stood in front of CBP headquarters in Chula Vista with letters signed by hundreds of people opposed to the wall. The agency's stated reason behind building the wall is public safety, but Fanistil is quick to point out that none of the volunteers who work at Friendship Park have ever been injured. And increasing the wall's height from 17 feet to 30 has led to a spike in serious injuries to migrants who've tried to climb it.
That's the official rationale for this project, public health and safety. Sadly, if 30-foot walls are imposed, there will be greater threats to health and safety.
Friendship Park is the only place along the 2,000-mile U.S.-Mexico border where people from either side can see each other without actually crossing the border. This is the only way some cross-border families can see each other in person. Activist Mona Kushensi says that building the 30-foot wall would destroy that special dynamic.
This is not the time to build 30-foot walls. This is the time to reimagine Friendship Park as a true place of binational friendship and binational celebration.
Friendship Park has been closed to the public since early 2020. CBP is expected to have a final decision on the park's future by the end of this year. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Climate advocates made it tougher for Sempra Energy employees to get to work this morning. About a dozen protesters blocked the entrance to the company's parking garage at Sempra's downtown San Diego headquarters. San Diego 350 says Sempra needs to stop dealing in fossil fuels because of the impact on climate change.
They want to position themselves as a truly sustainable transition company as we transition to clean energy, but that's really not the case. They mostly deal in methane, and methane is an extremely potent greenhouse gas. So methane causes climate change. They are still causing climate change, and we need to stop that.
Protesters say local residents are feeling the impact of a drought that is more intense because of climate change, and they say the company's energy rates are too high, with 1 in 4 families unable to pay their power bills. Sempra officials say they fully support renewable energy and are investing billions to help the state meet its carbon neutral goals. Some more bad news for the economy. A key measure of inflation is rising faster than expected. Isabel Rosales explains what this means for your wallet.
The Labor Department reporting a larger than expected increase Wednesday in the Producer Price Index. The report gauges prices paid for goods and services before they reach you, the consumer. Energy was up a little under 1% in September. Food prices jumped 1.2%. And services are up about 0.5%. While these increases represent the wholesale prices, they are likely to be passed on to the consumers in the form of higher grocery prices.
Historical experience suggests that the kind of inflation we have rarely returns to normal levels, to target levels of around 2%. Without some kind of recession.
The fight to bring down decades-high inflation has become a major concern for the Federal Reserve. The central bank has been hiking interest rates at an unprecedented pace in an effort to cool down the economy. But there are concerns that it's happening too fast and could soon lead to a recession.
No. Look, they've been saying this now every 6 months they say this.
President Joe Biden remains confident in the economy.
I don't think there will be a recession. If it is, it'll be a very slight recession.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
One bright spot, gas prices are dropping in San Diego County. Today, the average is down 4 cents at $6.25. That's the 7th straight decrease after skyrocketing to a new record high. Prices are down about 18 cents in the past week. A weaker housing market is expected next year as interest rates rise to fight inflation. That's according to a forecast released today by the California Association of Realtors. The report anticipates a decline in existing family home sales of about 7% next year. The state's median home price is also forecast to drop nearly 9% to around $758,000. Realtors expect a more favorable market for buyers with more homes for sale, less competition, and fewer homes selling above their asking price. Students at Castle Park Elementary got quite the lesson in conservation and sustainability as the school flipped the switch to solar today. The new solar structure provides shade and sits in the middle of the playground at the school. The microgrid system will provide power between the hours of 4 and 9 p.m. when electricity rates are at their highest. The Chula Vista Elementary School District says 46 campuses, their transportation yard, as well as the Education and Support Center, all switched to solar with the installation of 18,000 panels.
The district is also finalizing the installation of a microgrid system powered by solar and batteries. It will provide the backup emergency power to the district's IT department, additional servers, and the child nutrition freezer.
The project cost $32 million and was funded through AGO bond, saving about $70 million on power over the next 25 years.
Drier conditions on the way as we go into the next 24 hours, and we'll still be experiencing low clouds. Yeah, that marine layer will drive some of the clouds from coastal communities into some of the interior western valleys. Temperatures, for the most part, will be seasonable, though we will see some changes, especially away from the coast as we go into this weekend and beyond, more so over the mountains and into the desert. So again, low clouds coming back into the picture for tonight. Oceanside, San Diego will drop off into the mid-60s. Very similar out east where we're mainly quiet and clear toward Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna down to 52. And yeah, you see the clouds here. That's how we're starting off Thursday morning. And as we go through the day, we'll start to see those clouds make their way back out toward the immediate shoreline, but not for long. By the evening, start to see them spread their way back inland. So here's the situation. That area of low pressure far enough off the coast, we're not going to be looking at a lot of impacts here in the short term, though to the north. Yeah, we've been talking about some wet weather here as we've gone throughout the day north of Los Angeles, even some flood advisories. Very warm conditions really well east of some of the interior valleys that you get out toward the deserts. We'll see our warmest weather here the next couple of days. In fact, Borrego Springs up to 96 as we go into tomorrow. San Diego 73, Oceanside the same, so fairly seasonable for this time of the year. And a very similar look as we go into Friday. But as that upper level low comes ashore and we're to the north of that, we'll start to see potentially a little bit of that moisture spread its way back in our direction. And that can even be found to the coast here on Saturday in the form of a passing shower. A little cooler as we go into the weekend over some of the interior valleys. A passing shower on Saturday. Warmest weather here the next couple of days. Over the mountainous terrain, even a thunderstorm possible on Saturday as that upper level low makes its move in. And check out temperatures here into the deserts. 90s next couple of days, falling back in the mid-80s by Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
Voters in 4 states will make their decision about abortion rights in the upcoming election, including California. Prop 1 asks if the right to have an abortion should be enshrined in the state constitution. A new survey by Kaiser Family Foundation found that half of registered voters say they are more motivated to vote in this election than previous ones, and women are especially motivated by abortion rights. 3 out of 5 women between the ages of 18 and 59 say the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade is motivating them to get to the polls. Abortion is the top issue for Democrats, while the top issue for Republicans is the economy. When you throw out your trash, it often becomes an afterthought once it's in the garbage can or recycling bin. But it will be front of mind for many San Diegans on the November ballot. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer explains the San Diego People's Ordinance and a proposal to amend it.
Single-family homeowners in the city of San Diego haven't paid additional fees for trash pickup in over 100 years thanks to a law called the People's Ordinance. Homeowner service is paid out of the city's general fund, but multifamily complexes and businesses have to hire private waste haulers. That could change if voters approve Measure B on the November ballot. Measure B's opponents include the San Diego County Taxpayers Association. Haney Hong is the group's president and CEO.
If you want to make this more fair and more equitable, the answer is not charging everybody twice, including the single-family homeowners. The answer is charging everybody once.
The Climate Action Campaign supports Measure B. Mike Knabb is the group's co-director of policy.
In a place where you never see your bill for trash removal, you don't care whether you put recyclable things into your landfill bin.
The ballot measure would also guarantee free trash bins for all, which the city does not currently provide. If Measure B passes, it would be at least 2 years before any fees are charged. The city's independent budget analyst estimates customers would pay $23 to $29 per month per customer. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And for more on the election, head to kpbs.org and click on the Voter Hub link on our homepage. You'll find all of our stories on the key races as well as our in-depth ballot guide. The first woman to serve as president of San Diego State University has died. Sally Rausch was appointed interim president of the university in 2017, and during her year in the job, she helped lead the effort to expand the school into Mission Valley on the site of the former Qualcomm Stadium. She spoke to KPBS about it, saying her objective was to develop the site into a community and regional asset.
There's a higher good to be achieved there if the university is part of the development to expand our growth over the decades to come. We don't think in terms of 2 or 3 years on something like this. We think in terms of the 120 years that we've already been a university and the next 120.
And that development became what we know today as Snapdragon Stadium, and work on the Mission Valley campus is underway. SDSU says Rausch also introduced a more culturally sensitive representation of the university's historic Aztec identity. Rausch was in hospice care for cancer when she died on Friday. She was 75 years old.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, the U.S. reevaluates its alliance with Saudi Arabia after the kingdom backs a massive cut to oil production. That's coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Well, the Padres may be down, but they're not out. They're looking to make a comeback tonight after losing the first game in their National League Division Series with the Dodgers in Los Angeles. The Dodgers took a 2-0 lead in the first inning. In the third, they extended their lead to 5. The Padres came back in the 5th inning, scoring 3 runs, but still came up short. Final score, 5-3 Dodgers. Again, Game 2 is tonight at Dodger Stadium, and Game 3 on Friday will bring the teams to Petco Park. Cinephiles will have some choices to make this month as San Diego kicks off 4 overlapping film festivals. And tonight, the San Diego Italian Film Festival celebrates its 16th year, and tomorrow night, the San Diego Filipino Film Festival kicks off its 2nd year. KPBS Cinema junkie Beth Accomando brings us a preview of the 2 festivals.
This week, there's an embarrassment of cinematic riches as 2 film festivals open back-to-back. The Italian Film Festival launches its 16th year, but without its passionate founder, Victor LaRuccia, who died in March. Artistic director Antonio Iannota says there's sadness, but also joy at the legacy LaRuccia leaves behind.
For Victor, the festival was a piazza, a place where people could gather, talk to each other, argue about topics that are important to each other, and find something new in a movie.
LaRuccia did pick the theme for this year's festival, choice.
So to choose means to potentially put ourselves in danger, but that danger makes us what we are.
In the opening night film, The King of Laughter, it's an actor who makes choices.
Buonasera a tutti. It's an historic movie, but it's a movie about art and politics, and also very informative about a particular period in Italian and Neapolitan cultures.
That's important to the festival, which emphasizes that it's not just about Italian films, but about an Italian perspective. The Land of Suns considers how the written word links us to our humanity.
This is a post-apocalyptic science fiction movie, something very rare in Italian cinema, but something very powerful, based on an Italian graphic novel that tells a powerful story about a son that loses his father and everything, is alone and needs to fight for his survival.
But the film that sums up the festival best and embodies LaRuccia's idea of a piazza is the enchanting short Cinemare, which looks to the people who to this day travel with projectors and screens to show movies in rural Italy. Creating a sense of community around film is also at the heart of the San Diego Filipino Film Festival, founded by Emma Francisco and Benito Batista.
So because we are Filipino filmmakers, half of our experience and our culture is hospitality. That's what we do. We welcome strangers into our house, you know?
And that house happens to be a cinema showcasing films from around the globe and across the U.S. that highlight the Filipino experience. The festival showcases diversity as it takes us from a singer in Las Vegas in Serenade, one of the opening night shorts, to a domestic worker in Hong Kong for the closing night film We Don't Dance for Nothing.
There were so many of us. For just a few hours every week, we were free.
But my personal favorite is Martika Ramirez Escobar's wildly inventive Leonor Will Never Die, in which a woman gets hit on the head by a TV, goes into a coma, and imagines she's entered a Philippine action film from the 1970s.
What we love about the film is the idea of a woman Filipina filmmaker, having an auteur handle about concepts and stories that are not your usual take on things. And this is coming from a young perspective and design.
The festival not only highlights new films, but also pays homage to the past. This year, there's a retrospective screening of the late Marilu Diaz-Abaya's Carnal from 1983.
I want the audience to be curious about her work. Her husband was the cinematographer, and her husband said, "Why don't you direct the film?" And nervous and challenged, she did, and she did very well.
Veteran filmmakers, as well as students, will be highlighted at both the San Diego Filipino and Italian film festivals that kick off this week.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On NPR's Morning Edition, the January 6th Commission is holding its final public hearing. The new evidence it's presenting about former President Trump's role in the insurrection. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.